Star Wars Galaxy's Edge isn't even a year old yet, but is it already time to start thinking about expansion and new additions? That's going to be the topic of today's video, and I'm going to share my thoughts on the current state of Galaxy's Edge and where I think they should go in the future. Now, by no means is this me hating on Galaxy's Edge. I really enjoy all the time that I've spent in both Disneyland's version and Walt Disney World's version, but I do think there are some things that they can implement to kind of spice it up a little bit and keep guests coming back over and over and over again without it getting stale. And that's ultimately what Disney wants as well. And I've heard from other members in the Disney community that it's starting to get a little bit redundant. And of course, Rise of the Resistance opening really gave it an extra boost over the past couple of months. But there are a lot of people out there that feel once you've gone to Galaxy's Edge, 2-3 times, it's the same things over and over again. And I guess the same could be said for any other land that's in any of the Disney parks. But with Star Wars specifically, there's so much that they can do. And again, the land's not even a year old yet. So some of these things might be kicking around Imagineering right now. They might be already thinking of some of these ideas or new ideas, and frankly, better ideas than the ones that I'm gonna share with you today. But as Walt Disney said, we always keep moving forward, and it's time to continually think about the evolution of Galaxy's Edge. Where is it gonna be in the future? Where is it gonna be a year from now? Where is it gonna be 5 years from now? So let's talk about that. So that leads us into the first thing we're gonna talk about, and that is Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run. Now, I love this ride. We had such a great time each and every time we did get to go on it. But after going on the ride a handful of times, it kind of does start to get redundant. And it's still a lot of fun. The technology is really cool, but I just wish there were more missions for you to take part in on the attraction, kind of similar to Star Tours. Now, I know the technology might make it a little bit difficult to have all these different types of missions, but I think a good baseline would be anywhere between, 1 to 4 different missions that you can possibly get when you're on the ride, so that it gives you that sense of, we don't know what we're gonna get when we, get on the ship. We don't know what kind of mission Hondo's gonna have for us. I think that would be really cool, and I think it would give people that have been on the ride a number of times a reason to keep coming back. I like the variety of scenes that you can have on Star Tours, and I think if they were able to bring that into Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run, it would take it from what's already a really fun, great attraction in Galaxy's Edge and really up it to a level that I think it can definitely hit. And these things might be in the works already. I have no insider knowledge on anything like that. But I just think this would be a great addition to the Smugglers Run, and I think it will keep people coming back over and over again. And while we're on the topic of attractions, something else that I think would be really cool, and you guys are gonna be like, Matt, you're crazy. We just had probably the best theme park ride in the world open up a couple of months ago, and I know how great Rise of the Resistance is. But I'm thinking down the line here. I think a third attraction that is more of a thrill attraction would do very well in Galaxy's Edge. It would give you 3 different types of attractions. You have your simulator type experience with Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run. Rise of the Resistance is kind of like a amped up dark ride, which is kind of what it is. And then if you were able to bring like a coaster into Galaxy's Edge, I think that would be really cool. And the one thing that keeps coming to my mind when I'm thinking of a coaster in Galaxy's Edge would be pod racers. I think a pod racing roller coaster would be really cool. Kind of think of it as like a dueling coaster, similar to the ones that they used to have in Universal for Harry Potter before Hagrid's took over that. But I think that would be really cool. You have like 2 different sets of pod racers, and they get to race each other, and you have all different types of corkscrews and flips and things like that. It would be really cool. Now, I know Disney isn't big on super thrill rides, but I think you could do something along the lines of Rock and Roller Coaster, albeit outdoors, but maybe you have 1 or 2 corkscrews, 1 flip, so that it's thrilling enough, but not super adventurous, so that if somebody wants to try it out, they still would be able to try it out. And with the technology that we saw Universal do with Hagrid's motorbike adventure, there's a lot that Disney can do with the ride in terms of what you see along the way, all different animatronics, things like that. I think it would be a really cool addition. The one thing though, and this is kind of me asking the Star Wars fans out there, does pod racing exist in the sequel trilogy timeline? And that's kind of the big question, because this whole Planet of Batuu is based off of the sequel trilogy. It's set to take place between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So it has to be, current and in the current timeline of the Disney sequel. So if pods exist, if pod racing exists somewhere on some planet, I think they should definitely add it. I think it'd be a really cool addition. But let me know down in the comments below what other ideas for a roller coaster you might have that's kind of Star Wars themed and can add that sense of a thrill attraction to the land. And the next thing I'd like to see in Galaxy's Edge is actually something that Disney already has mentioned. They've mentioned this at D23 and other panels in the past about Galaxy's Edge. And that's kind of like more of the roaming aliens and droids, like more local people of Batuu. I think that'd be really cool to have like different droids roaming around and maybe some different people like that pop up in the cantina that are characters. Like, I think that would really add an element to the land that, in my opinion, is kind of lacking, and that is the sense of locals. When you go to Galaxy's Edge, and of course I know it's in a theme park, so that's all taken into context, but you know, it's mostly off-planet people like us, people visiting Batuu, you know, on their vacations or whatnot. And of course you have the locals who, you know, are the cast members that work there, but it'll be cool to see some locals kind of roaming around, different droids popping up here and there, you know, interacting with guests in a way that we haven't seen yet before. And I'm sure those type of things are in the works. We've seen R2-D2 been roaming around Walt Disney World and Disneyland for the past few weeks now. At the Disneyland 80s night, they actually had C-3PO come out, and it's rumored that he's going to be a everyday meet and greet character with R2-D2, which I think would be awesome. But just having more of those like aliens and like local creatures and droids kind of roaming around the land, I think would give it an extra flair and a sense of, hey, I'm not on a planet with everybody that looks like me. I think that would be pretty cool. And finally, something that I do think and really believe Disney is going to bring to Galaxy's Edge in the future is a sit-down restaurant that is themed after Star Wars. Of course, you have Docking Bay 7, you have Ronto Roasters, there's Oga's Cantina where you can get drinks and some snacks, but having a sit-down dining experience I think would be really cool for the land. And it's something that I ultimately think is going to come down the line. We saw this with Toy Story Land. There was no sit-down restaurant there for the longest time, and there still currently isn't. But we know that the barbecue restaurant is going to be opening up, which is going to be pretty awesome. And it'll complement the quick service location as well. So you have a couple of different dining options. You have a sit-down option if you like. It would be cool if it was like a character dining, but a lot of the characters that are in the sequel trilogy already are roaming around the land, so I don't know how that would necessarily work. But either way, I think a sit-down themed dining experience would be pretty cool, and I think it would be a nice little touch to the land that currently doesn't exist. Now, I know I said that was going to be my final thought, but this is actually going to be my final thought here. And I know it's kind of difficult because Disney has built Batuu and Galaxy's Edge into the sequel trilogy timeline, but I would love to see some more nods to the original trilogy. I know it's not a possibility right now unless Disney decides to completely get rid of the whole concept of where this fits in the Star Wars canon timeline, but it would be cool to see some characters kind of walking around, or even the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. Having a meet and greet for them would be really awesome. I just don't know like if we're gonna get there. I'm hoping we do, because between you and me, I kind of hope that Disney eventually fades away from the set specific timeline that Galaxy's Edge is. And I know that's kind of where it is right now, but I would really like to see them expand on that. And I think it would ultimately be better for them as well, because you would bring in some of those people that maybe are staying away from Galaxy's Edge because it's not what they like. You know, this Disney sequel trilogy is not something that all Star Wars fans are fans of. Matter of fact, I would say the majority of them don't like the sequel trilogy. So maybe somehow, I don't know how they would do it, but somehow incorporating some of the characters that we know from like the original movies or even the prequels would be awesome. But ultimately, I would love to see the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda in the parks. Having a Mandalorian meet and greet would be super cool. Just fingers crossed that maybe one day Disney breaks that timeline that they're holding on to so tightly for Galaxy's Edge. But we'll see. Those are my thoughts on the current state of Galaxy's Edge and just a few additions that I think that would make the land a cool experience. Not that it already isn't a cool experience, but maybe an experience that would keep you coming back over and over again without it feeling like you're doing the same exact things each and every time you go there. And obviously Disney has invested a lot of money into Star Wars, and they know how valuable the franchise is. So I do think we're gonna get, not necessarily these things, but I think we're gonna see expansion for Galaxy's Edge sooner than you guys might actually think. So we'll just have to wait and see what Disney decides to do next. But in the meantime, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you would like to see in Galaxy's Edge next. Do you think a roller coaster type of attraction would be cool? Do you think a sit down experience would add something to the land as far as dining is concerned? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you and hear what your thoughts are for additions to Galaxy's Edge. And if you guys are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. And with that being said, we'll see you guys real soon. May the Force be with you.